Well, oh, sorry. I pushed the button and then started doing some other stuff. And yeah, here I am. It's Friday morning. And relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. That's what I'm doing. I remember that now. And here I am continuing to work meticulously, sort of. I guess that's a good word. If not that, at least slowly, on the Lotus-Ford. This is a picture of the inside of the real car. Okay, it's not a model. The real car is still in a museum in Dearborn, Michigan. And I did this so that I could see the inside, because two of the things I'll be painting probably today is the steering wheel and the control panel. And it turns out that unlike the instructions that came with the model, there's painting directions on there. This isn't painted brown, it's actually red. The whole interior is red. The instrument panel is red as well. The dials have aluminum bezels, rings around them, and the inside is black and then white dials on it. It looks like the inside is actually padded, although in the model that I'm building, it's just going to be aluminum. And there's embossed on the side of the aluminum bulkheads are some little instruments, and those apparently are painted black with some aluminum highlights. So I just got this out because I wanted to make sure of what colors I was painting things. So there it is. Under here are parts of the engine and parts of the suspension. And what I was doing with the suspension is that there were these circular mold marks, and I filled them in, and now I need to sand that down. This part here, this is like at least the third time I'm working on this. It just doesn't settle right. It isn't going correctly. So I'm going to sand it down a little bit more and then just repaint it. Let's use this stuff. I'm just trying to polish it. And I'm going to start by doing this and then these. And then here. I primed a whole bunch of stuff yesterday. So you can see that they're white instead of shiny. And I need to take a look at them and see how they turned out. Because the next step would be to paint almost all of these aluminum, maybe with some highlights of different shades of aluminum. I've got the control panel, the dashboard, and the steering wheel. I can kind of work on those, but I'll take a look at this in just a little while and see if it's ready for painting or not. The last time I painted this, you could still see little indications of this seam here. The seam disappeared up here, but it was still a little bit there. So I'm going to not do what I said I was going to do. I'm going to take this slightly coarser sandpaper and sand it down a little bit more to see if I can't get it to look the way I want it to. And the problem hasn't been so much that that the little seam between the parts is showing. The problem has been that the paint hasn't gone on evenly, and I'm not sure what the problem is there. I'm going to try one more time to get it painted. I'm going to do this early on Because if I can get this painted, then I can assemble these parts. And then I'll have something done for the done box. Nice and shiny anyway. Put some duraluminum, that's duraluminum on here. It's slightly darker shade. I might just do that. I might just take this big brush. Just go see if I can't get the paint to look even. And I don't know, maybe I'll have to put 2 coats on. Sometimes this is why it takes me so long to get these models done. This is, like I said, like the 3rd time I'm doing this. So this actually could have been fully assembled probably a week ago if I hadn't just kept being happy with how it was looking. I don't think it would change the measurement. I didn't sand very much off, but that part shows. I got the paint on the big thing, and then I can't get that little bit. See if I can open and close this thing without spattering on myself like I did on Wednesday. You get paint not just on the paper towel, but all over the place, meaning my pants. Why is it so dark? Well, because well, this is just this. I didn't prime it, okay, and so I'm painting on the raw plastic, and it's going on evenly here. This isn't the way I want to be doing it. Put a second coat on. The lesson is this metallic paint does not work well. Attempt to get a nice even coat of paint on here is not working very well. Okay. So, how is Friday going? Yeah, I'm going to take a look at the parts I primed now. I haven't really inspected them very much. I took them off of the tape. I had them taped to a piece of cardboard so they didn't go flying, right? I need to take a look at them and see how they turned out. They certainly changed in color. And managed to get rid of the chrome. The primer adheres to the plastic really pretty well. So here's the box of parts. I've got an upper control arm. I've got the steering control. I've got the parts that these are the brakes and they hold the wheels eventually. This is the steering column. And the steering wheel. I discovered the steering wheel in the real car is painted red, as is the seat. This is interesting. This is kind of like a primitive head support. The helmet goes in this red part back here, and these round circles on either side of the helmet. Nowadays, there's these big wings that come out of the seat that hold one's head still. Back then, I guess you just got neck injuries. And then there's the instrument panel. The instrument panel is also painted red, except for the instruments. And I'm going to do my best to try to make those look like they should. This is supposed to go through here. Let's see if it does. Not really. Okay, so one sees things. That's not good. Okay, I thought I had taken care of this, but I don't know if you can see it. There's a line right along the side here. Okay, that's the mold mark. That's where the two halves of the mold came together. And it wasn't obvious until now. I thought I sanded that off, but I didn't. So unfortunately, these parts are going to have to be sanded down and reprimed. That's a pain. This one looks okay. As far as I can tell, these look okay. Steering wheel. Looking for where the sprue was attached to see if that came out okay. Yeah, it came out about as well as it can. This is going to be largely... seriously, I forgot. I didn't prime it on the other side and turn it over. Well, here's the big deal. Let's see. Oh, okay, that's disappointing. So this bulkhead here, this part here is attached to the body of the car. And if you see down here, I filled in the gap and I sanded it down. And it looks really good here on the bottom. Okay. It's the line is invisible, but right up here, the gap is still there. I can't really tell what's happening there. I'm going to have to refill that and resand it because, this is how it's supposed to look. But then you go up to here and you can even see it on camera. There's like an opening there. I'm going to try the green putty on that again. Well, this isn't right. Touch this up a little bit. I'm going to do this one first before I forget it. There's a tiny little flaw. Again, these are things that are hard to see, but you can kind of see them. If you look at this side, see how it kind of, it comes to a point there. But on this side, there's a blob. It's really hard to see those when it's chrome. It's so shiny. But after it's been primed, just like the seams. The thing I discovered is that also that the back of the instrument panel is painted black, and then just the face of it is painted red. Interesting to see. There's a tiny little bit that's going to be painted black, but I got that fixed. Okay, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to reapply the filler. Like I said, this came out really well. Hardly see, especially on this side where the paint's a little thicker. But right up on top, on both sides, it's like symmetrically bad. There's still you can still see the opening, and when that's painted gloss screen, it's going to show. Yes, so, and this is what I was looking for. Monthly cleanup. What are you cleaning up? Okay. Oh, we need a major cleanup in ours, I have to say. I've just been walking around, been living in this house now for something like 30 years, raised a couple of kids, just accumulated. We collect stuff, I guess, just have to say, and just accumulated so much stuff. It's just a mess. Okay, I'm going to try something different here. I made a little bit of like a spatula thing, I guess you'd call it. The kind of thing you use when you're putting stuff on drywall. You know, that's a good plant. I like that. It's just like once a month you just take care of stuff. And that's what you do. What I'm going to try to do is apply this very sparingly as opposed to squeezing it on to see if I can get it into the gap and not around it. I haven't tried this before, but it makes sense to try it. It's supposed to clean up with water. So at least theoretically, I should be able to rinse this off. Well, yeah, that's good. See, you can see as I'm spreading this across, there's a little thin green line there, and that thin green line is the the crack, and I'm trying to push it down into it. I don't know. This is see if this works. If this stuff works okay, you know, if the little crack there disappears after it's sanded, and that's a good thing. Then I'll be able to move on to repriming it. Probably I should reprime it, and I might even be able to do that yet. No, we'll see how it goes. I would really like to paint the inside of it. I'd like to get the inside of it painted aluminum and get that done. My skill at applying this is not what I imagined it was going to be. You know, as I was thinking about how the application of this green putty was going to go, I did imagine it going better than it is. I know it'll work because the bottom part here, like I said, just looks really good. The part that's most visible, the part that people can see, isn't going that good. This is supposed to set up and dry really fast, so I should be able to sand this later on in the stream. Toothpick spatula was not a great success. Oh. Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Is this why do we have this in the house? Why did we bring this in? What are we supposed to do with this? Now I'm going to have to clean it up this month and next month. Right? Cleaning the car. One of our cars was absolutely filthy. I mean, it was after the winter. Here we have ice and snow and dirt and all sorts of things. And yeah, it needed a thorough cleaning. Managed to get that done a while ago, but now it looks better. So what I didn't do on these is that I misjudged where the seam of between the two molds was. It's along here, not along here. So I carefully sanded it down on this side and this side. But now that I prime it, I can see the line with a little plastic oozed out. Yeah, that's actually true, isn't it? That you can go to a car wash, which is pretty nice, but the inside, you can pay people to clean the inside of your car. I know that can happen because my wife has done that. Here you can see what happens as I'm sanding this. You can see the line got a little darker there. That's where I sanded. That was an area that was raised because of the oozing out of the plastic, and so that got sanded off right away. So that dark line is a good sign in that I am catching a raised area. I'm going to use a slightly coarser grit. I think I've got some 800 in here. 400. I started reminding myself I need to write down on the paper what the grit is. Started doing that, but apparently not on all of them. 400. So what happened? I used to have a monologue going, while I was doing this. I would talk about things like the death of the television antenna industry and stuff like that. And just the last month, that just stopped. So I have to apologize. It's like after doing the stream for actually a couple of, I think it's years now. Yeah, for over like 2 years or something. I used up all my material, and all I can do is repeats. So it's like you go to a comedy show, right? And you stand-up comic, and it's hilarious, and all of that sort of thing. Then you go to it again, and it's exactly the same show, right? And you discover that these things are very well scripted and rehearsed and not spontaneous at all, except for maybe some asides to the audience. Yeah, you can see by the dark stripe there where the raised edge was, and the fact that it's so persistent is that was up there pretty high. Side two. In fact, the parts aren't one of those situations where they were misaligned. Actually, I can feel it now that the mold wasn't exactly lined up, and so one part is actually a little higher than the other. Here's how much I need to sand this. Actually, quite a bit. So this is going to end up taking longer than I thought. Which debate was that? Which the debate about some technologies? Window cleaner. Okay. I'm not familiar with that. Can you fill me in? What debate about window cleaning technology do you come across? Oh, the wiper part that goes back and forth when you're cleaning the windshield when it's raining. That is a good question, because it is, while you're driving, it is kind of distracting to have the wiper blades going back and forth like that. What do you think? I've never read any research, any evidence that causes accidents, but I see how some people could be really, really bothered by that. I mean, distracted by it as the blades go back and forth rhythmically. It's interesting. That technology, that's been around for a long, long time. And you would think that if there was a significant problem, but then again, maybe not. You could have a significant problem that lasts a long time and it's just never addressed. So when it first came out, okay. if I'm getting it or not. I can't feel it anymore. It's at least better than it was. You can see the line there. It's really an obvious line where it was higher. Where the line was there. And once that was painted, it would be really obvious. Oh, yeah. People don't talk much about that, you know? When I learned how to drive, driver training kind of situation, they did talk about that, how when you're driving in the rain, how important it is to be to watch your speed, because your tires actually can lift up off of the road, aquaplaning. Yeah, that is very true. Not being able to see where you're going is not a good idea. So what's interesting is, the wiper blades, of course, and I can understand when those first came out how there's always somebody who says, oh, no, that's a bad idea. But then it made it, in the long run, it made it safer because, like you say, you can actually see through the front window, which is kind of a good thing. Saw an ad. Nowadays, if your window fogs up, then it can do that because of moisture in the air and the temperature differences and stuff. If your window fogs up, you have a defroster that blows warm air on the inside of the windshield, and it gets rid of that moisture, at least most of the time. But cars didn't used to come with that, I found, because I saw in an old magazine there was an advertisement for a thing that you put on your window. It was like a piece of plastic, or not plastic, but some sort of material that you put on your window, and it hooked up to the power socket, which used to be a cigarette lighter, and now it's like a power outlet. You plug it in, and there would be a little spot right in front of the driver that that would clear. That was a big aftermarket safety device because they didn't come with a window cleaner. Hi, Leconk. Thanks for the follow. Thanks so much for joining in. What I'm doing today is fixing things that I missed on Wednesday. Okay, I'm sanding these. I thought I had cleaned these up and I got them ready for priming, and I did prime them, but there are a couple of pieces on this plastic model. You can see the line along here. They're injection molded, and so where the mold comes together, sometimes it doesn't seal, and then the plastic oozes out a little bit. And when it oozes out a little bit, it makes a long ridge. And so instead of having a nice, clean, cylindrical rod like this is the steering column for the car, there's a raised ridge. And these two parts had that problem. And then this part is cemented onto the body, and I filled in the gap and sanded it down, and along the bottom it came out really well, but along the sides where it's visible, it didn't. So I put more green putty in, and I'll have to reprime that. These need to be resprayed. I didn't get the bottom of this. I don't know how I missed it. I didn't turn it over. So what I'm doing is I'm correcting a whole bunch of problems that just occurred. A whole bunch of problems that occurred after I thought I had corrected all the problems. So it goes. I do have some pieces, though, that did work out, and I will attempt to do some painting on these a little bit later. These bits, suspension parts, I was cleaning up and got rid of the, like I said, the mold came together and some plastic oozed out. But right here, both of them was one of those horrible little molding circle things. And I filled it in, and now I need to sand that off. Which will be a little bit tricky because the parts are tiny and hard to hold. I'm using fairly coarse sandpaper initially. I could even use the needle file. And I'm not sure if this will work or not. If it doesn't, I'm no worse off than I was before I started, except for the waste of time. If it does, then the parts will look much better than they would have otherwise. Yeah, what idea did you have? What kind of spell were you looking for? I will explain in a little while why I am what I'm working on and why. But I want to try to sand this down first. Okay. You talked about that a little bit on Wednesday. But you said that protecting from water and drying off after you get wet are two different spells, though. So are you looking to have just one that does both, or are you looking to get two? Okay. I misunderstood. So the original game system had two different spells, but you can get one now. I have to say that seems like a very practical thing to have. I mean, I agree that protecting oneself from water and being able to dry off afterwards is a good thing. I would be in favor of doing that with one of my characters. And sanding these little bits is difficult. And I want to get it. Yeah, it's still quite high. The putty seems to have filled in the circle, but now it's a question of reshaping it. Yeah, that's actually, I'm really quite concerned about that. It's just these parts are pretty small and pretty fragile. And if this is also the suspension for the front wheels, and if this breaks, I mean, it's already fragile, but if this breaks, it'll be very hard to repair with enough, strength to hold the wheel on. And I'm forgetting to talk because this focusing on trying to get this sanded down. If it weren't round, it would be a lot easier. And if it weren't like the most visible part of the whole model, I'd feel better about it too. But this is the front suspension. It sticks right out in front of the car. I guess, yeah, I need to. I'm finding more and more, even as just the days go by, I need to pay attention more. Well, that didn't work out as well as I was hoping. And still feel the indentation there on the bottom. So we'll see how it looks after it's primed. It might be okay. Sometimes a lot of these things you can't see if there's like the little crack gaps that were still open, um, that I thought I had taken care of on the body. This one seems to be coming along a little better than the other one did. After all these things are painted and primed and everything, and I have to try to get them to fit together. I do know, for example, that these little holes are supposed to hold. They're designed to hold the spindles that hold the wheels, and the spindles are supposed to go into those holes, and they don't. Spindles are too big or the holes are too small, and there's not much extra to work with here. It goes like this, and then one of these is supposed to go in that hole like that. Oh my, oh dear. I can get that to work eventually. Okay, as I'm looking, I have to look at the other one too. You know how I talked about the lines that you get from the mold? Look under here, if you can see it. There's a big line there. Those are pretty fun spells. Oh, a cat. A cat that's afraid of water. This is, as I've learned the hard way with these sorts of things, it's really important to reprime it, because even that little bit, the metallic paints will, they don't adhere exactly the same way on this over and over again. So the whole thing, I need to put like little spritzes, tiny little spritzes of primer on here. Because that was such an obvious flaw. Again, on the suspension parts that are going to show when it goes all the way around. How could I miss that? Understand how I could have missed such obvious mold flaws just everywhere. Okay, well, I guess the priming turned out to be a good thing in that it showed me how I failed in my prep work, but not a terribly good thing in that I need to redo it after I fix the problem that I didn't see when it was chrome. That was, if they were not chromed, it probably would have been, I probably would have seen this and fixed it before I primed it. But the shiny chrome, I was planning to do a whole bunch of painting on all of these parts, and now I'm just ending up spending all my time resanding them all, reprepping them to be reprimed before they're being painted. I guess better now than, well, it would have been better if it were done the first time around. Okay, but not having done it the first time around, I'm doing it the second time around. Yeah, these were really bad. Not coming out very easily. If I were less patient, and I'm getting impatient, I would have done this with a needle file. Way around here. I think when I first looked at them, they looked like they were part of the design, but they're not. They're just chunks of plastic that shouldn't be there. So I apologize for the delay in getting anything done. It said aluminum painting and but like 3 parts. But like 3 parts I'm working on have to be redone. Great. Okay, well, I can go there in the pile of, but not quite failure. So buttons. It was I don't know why anybody thought that was funny. So what? So buttons. Be modern. Use zippers. That's kind of nonsensical, but there it is. I just said it out loud. Yeah. So I've managed to have to redo the prep work on a bunch of these parts because once I primed them, I saw significant flaws in the plastic that I hadn't seen when they were just shiny chrome stuff, which did make it really hard to see if there were like these mold marks or not. But they're supposed to be these nice cylindrical pieces of metal. And when they're nice cylindrical pieces of metal, when they look like pieces of plastic with line down the middle, yeah. Here and here. Right. So buttons. These parts now are where they should have been on Wednesday and weren't, but now they are. So all those need to be primed. again, or in these cases, the first time. I need to put another coat of duraluminum here. I'll use this brush this time. Just that one spot. Like I said, this is like the fourth time I'm doing this. And I just can't get it to look right. Starting to get frustrated by that. I'm going to get very grumpy here very soon. Why is this brush stiff? Yet more reason to be grumpy. It's my nice soft bristled brush is stiff. See how that looks when it dries, but at some point I just need to say I can't do any better. It's getting really close to that point where I just can't do any better. And then I'm going to assemble these parts because it's time to do that. Right. Be right back to get. I'm going to just do some prep work here. These bits that need to be primed, I'm going to tape them onto this piece of cardboard so that they can be primed. Or in some cases, reprimed. For repriming, 3 first-time priming. This part I didn't turn over, so that part needs to be primed, and that's the part that shows. These need to be primed on both sides again because of the mold marks. As does this. Maybe I should actually clean them off before I stick them on there, huh? I think that's a good thing. Clean them off. Why do we say that? Why don't just say clean them? These need to be cleaned. That would be, I think that would be straightforward, right? But no, clean them off. weird some of our sayings. I'm taping these down because spraying the spray, they're tiny little parts. They're very light. The spray pushes them around. I have lost parts in the past by doing that. Well, I shouldn't say I lost them. In that, to be more accurate, I found them again after they had been blown away. Feeling for flaws, which there are some. These little bits are kind of a pain because they're very oddly shaped. Guess I can stick them on like this. I need to get around the edges. But the top seems to be okay. But the front or the part the part that's down seems to be okay. Okay, so all these bits need to be sprayed. Most of them need to be turned over after they've been sprayed so that I can spray the other side. Put this sort of over there where I hopefully won't knock it over. Right. I think I need to do something. I need to do some aluminum painting because I promised that this would be about aluminum painting, didn't I? I am going to paint the the three-prong part of the steering wheel is painted aluminum, but the rim is painted red. So what I'm going to do is paint this red and then aluminum. This is all aluminum with some highlights that'll be painted, I think, darker. I'm going to paint those darker just so that they can show. And then this is not painted aluminum. This is painted black on the back and red on the front. I'm not quite ready to deal with the instrument panel today. It just means I'm a little tired and yeah. I don't know why this is still sitting out. This is done. It's a done piece. I need to put it in the done box. I guess I was waiting to put it in the done box at the same time I put this on in the done box. Tell you what, I'm okay with how this turned out. I'm going to assemble this. I'll be using two kinds of cement. One is for the end here, for this end piece, I'm going to use just the regular model cement. And for the headers that go on the top, because I'm attaching painted surface to painted surface, I'm going to use contact cement because that adheres. This is dumb. The contact cement adheres to painted surfaces. whereas this stuff that I'm holding in my hand doesn't. But what will be accomplished is that I will be able to put something in the done box. That's way too much. This little pinpoint thing is supposed to just like little pin drops, right? Tiny little drops. But no, big blobs. Blobs, that's a technical term. Blips. Way too much cement came out. I need to learn to not trust. I just have learned, don't trust this. Forgetting the correct orientation of this. It's rounded on one side. The roundy part goes to the top. It's in place for a while. So I'm holding this in place for like 3 minutes or something. What should I do? I should talk about something. I was talking about race cars, because I used to watch races when I was young. Started going to races way back in the late 50s, even maybe like when I was 7 years old. It would have been 58, 59, 60. We had a racetrack near our house. I mean, a couple miles away, close enough that if we wanted to, we actually could walk there. If we wanted to walk for like 45 minutes or something. And there were the open wheel racers, the kind that race at Indianapolis. Those would race there the weekend after the Indianapolis 500. So it was actually a pretty big deal because we would see the cars that we just had heard about on the radio that had driven there. And sometimes they were new and innovative, like when in 1964, the first rear engine car raced at Indianapolis and didn't finish the race because the tires blew up on one of the cars. They decided that that was not a good thing to have the tires blow up. And so they actually withdrew the second car, pulled it off the track so it didn't suffer the same fate. This piece rocks back and forth. It doesn't fit that well. So I'm going to make sure it's symmetric. Not falling off. That's a good thing. Kind of annoyed by these parts on this car just don't fit that well anyway. Okay, these go here. There. And I'm going to use contact cement to put them in place, which is easy to do on this side. Not so easy to do on the other side because the contact point isn't so obvious. I'm kind of annoyed by this. Some of the cement is showing and it causes a glisten. So I'm going to have to, once the cement is dry later on, I'm going to get the duraluminum paint out, that color, and just do some little touching up to cover up the spots. Okay. This is the contact cement. And I usually apply this with a little toothpick. I don't have to say little toothpick, it's just toothpick. Because I don't want it to get everywhere. Yeah, stuck. That's why I keep the pliers there. Okay, so there's a lot of contact cement in here, and I need little drops of it. Get some of the toothpick, and hopefully locate it. The adherence points. Where it will actually stick to the other part but not show. That's the intent. The nice thing about this, among the other nice things about this, I mean, other than that it adheres to a painted surface, is that I don't have to rush. Okay, because the instructions actually say that it should sit for like 15 minutes, which I never do because I get impatient. That it should set for 15 minutes before putting the parts together, which means that there is plenty of time to get it on both sides and let it sit. And it doesn't, it actually is a good thing. That should be good. Instead of setting up like epoxy would, or just going bad like modeling cement would, it would just dry up. Okay, this sitting like this is actually a good thing in terms of the future of adhesion. To make sure that I get the right one on the right side, they have a different sized gap to fit a different sized positioning tab on the other one, on the other side. Well, that should do. I'm supposed to shake it. I keep forgetting that. It says shake well. I didn't. It will work okay. Big one. Small. It hasn't come off yet. This gives me a little, once I drop it several times, it gives me a, get that. Yeah, good holding on. Good holding on to the piece. I do have a little bit of time with this also to reposition. It needs to be repositioned. Be repositioned. There's all sorts of spots on here that need touching up. Look at that. I thought I had gotten that, but apparently I didn't after I cleaned up a problem there. Well, there's sticking there. Other than the dirt aluminium touching up that I now need to touch up. Tiny bits there, some there. Little spots here where the cement is showing. I'm going to let this set for a bit. Why does that look crooked? It's absolutely in line on the bottom. This line is even on top. Yeah, I mean they're absolutely in line. Just doesn't, well, there. So this engine, this will go into the car. It'll set here actually like that. And then velocity stacks go on top of here. Those are little like cones that make the air flow faster into the engine. And there's covers that go over that. So after all of this, pretty much most of this will be invisible. Nice, huh? I need to do some touching up on this a little bit later after I quit messing with it. And then I'll put it in the done box. To paint the rim of the steering wheel. I just decided that that's what I'm going to do. I need a toothpick again. I don't need a round one. I need one of the regular little flat ones. I'm getting this so that I can put it in the hole in the back and hold it. It'll be my holder. And there's a mess, just making a mess over here. set this behind me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep knocking into it. There. I need it bigger, so it holds a little tighter. There. There. And then I can put an alligator clip on the other end of this, stick the alligator clip in here. And there, like that. And it won't move around, hopefully. A good try this approach. And at some point, I might try to sand this down. Red. Yep, I need red paint, flat red. Because believe it or not, Dom, I need a stretch and a hydrate. Yeah, the seat and the steering wheel are actually quite bright red. Getting some red paint. Now, this little vortex spinner kind of thing that shakes the bottle. This paint, red paint, hasn't been used in quite a while. So I'm going to give it a good stirring. So as a reminder, Dice and Dungeons is a group of family and friends that puts on an amazing Dungeons and Dragons show that streams with a live chat on Twitch on Sundays at 2 to like 3 times a month. And all of the previous episodes are available on YouTube. And so you can catch up with everything that's been happening with Dyson, with our group Midnight Brunch. And this stream exists because we make our own dungeon tiles and minifigs on 3D printers, and they get painted on, well, then they get painted. And our DM thought, since doing all the painting, why not stream it? And so it's getting streamed. And when there aren't any dungeon tiles or minifigs, I work on models that I accumulated over the years. This particular model is one that I actually built when it first came out, like in 1966. And this isn't the exact model that I built in 1966. I mean, that would be silly to think that. But it's a 1970s reproduction of the model, just like the one that I built in 1966. And in 1966, I would have built this entire thing over the weekend and hardly have done any painting on it at all. In fact, no painting at all. And it wouldn't look at all like this one is going to end up looking, which I'm hoping will be good. Oh, what's happening is I've got this vibrator thing that stirs the paint. And for the most part, the microphone doesn't pick up the sound. But actually, if I do it at a low RPM, it makes the camera move, and I get this wiggly effect like that. Yeah. I know if Who was on, Who joins in now and then, really appreciates the rave effect. So I'm going to try to not get paint on the inner part here, because that's going to be painted metallic. If it's painted red, it will show through. I should put my head magnifiers on for this. It really makes a big difference. I can see what I'm doing. There's extra light. It's magnified double. If I don't do this now, problems will show up later. I'm going to go silent again. I might. End up putting a second coat on. I've discovered that red, yellow, and white paint, they're kind of viscous, almost jelly-like sometimes, and they don't always cover very well. It's on camera. That's pretty fun. That's a thing that doesn't always happen. You know, probably have to come back and do a second coat. Prefer not to, but look better if I do. I continue saying this moment by moment. I'm finding it harder to walk and chew gum at the same time. What I mean by that is I'm finding it harder and harder to paint this kind of thing, even though it's not extremely detailed at this point, and talk about things at the same time. So I'm finding myself just going silent and painting this kind of little detail stuff. moderate success. Let's see how it looks when it dries. And then decide whether I need a second coat or not. Part of it will be like, have I missed spots, which is altogether a possibility. I think this color is actually going to work pretty well. I was a little bit concerned this wouldn't look good, but I think it's going to be just about right. Just going around looking for spots that I missed. Fix that. And there are spots that I missed. It's a good thing I'm doing this. Come back and look at it later after it dries. But there's a red rim on the steering wheel. Oh, there it is. It looks orange. I know the color rendering on my monitor, and I'm guessing it's kind of like what you're seeing as well, is not terribly accurate. Okay. The reds kind of come out orangish. That happened with the Savoia. It was a bright red, and it looked orange on screen. There's some other color renderings that were not that good either. Yeah, let me try to clean the brush. So I need to use the lacquer thinner. 11. Can't read the time. No, 11:40. Okay, so I got about an hour left. What should I do? And then I don't want to go back to touching that up quite yet. Pretty soon I will. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to, I know the thing said aluminum painting or aluminium painting. I haven't done any aluminium painting at all. Maybe I will. Okay, this part is going to be painted aluminium or aluminum, depending on where you're from. Do the same thing. I'm going to use a toothpick to hold it through one of the holes, and this whole thing is just painted that color. And then I might have to do 2 coats on that. I don't know. We'll see. Brushes. Let's see if there's another one here. Yeah, this one's a little bigger. This might require 2 coats. Sometimes the metallics do, but this whole thing is going to be painted one color. Okay, so this will be relaxing painting. Be relaxing painting because it's just one color, and if it doesn't look really good the first time, I can recoat it. After I'm done with this, I'm going to get the duraluminum back out, which is this one here. I'm not going to use that because it's all separated. And do tiny little bits of touch-up on the engine block. And then I'm going to put it in the done box. Oh, that can keep looking crooked. It is just set. It is set just right. No, it's because of the way it's built. It's the part itself. Okay, never mind. Yeah, these parts are really much darker because this is a picture of the real engine, and this bit here is that bit there, and then these are the velocity stacks that are separate part that are going to be painted bright aluminum that go in there and there. Okay, and then these are ignition wires, and I don't know if I will. If I can find some really, really fine wire, I might have some. I might try to replicate the ignition wires. I'm just saying. I don't think I'm actually going to be able to pull that off, but it would be pretty fun to be able to do that. Like maybe just some really fine copper wire or something. If I could find a way to anchor the ends of it. It's got a lot of bubbles in it. We'll have to see how that goes. The thing here is just to make sure it's all covered and that I don't have bubbles. This will take 2 coats, it looks like. It'll look better with 2 coats. These raised bits, these detailed bits, I'm going to paint a darker color, a darker shade of metallic. Just, so you could see them better. And once that dries, it's not going to look too bad. There's these molding circles on the bottom because I decided not to fill those in. This is supposed to be largely invisible. largely meaning mostly, meaning not supposed to be able to see it. I probably should have. I really should have filled those in. I didn't, and I can still do that. I can still fill them in and sand them down and redo all of this, but I don't think those are going to show. And there is some little dust or something there. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. Let's see how it ends up looking after it dries. I'm going to do the same thing with this that I did with the other bit. So I can put a clip on the toothpick and stick it in there. My handy dandy holder thing. Yeah, I'm going to touch up the engine block now with tiny bits of duraluminum paint. Well, I put this very carefully somewhere aside. Like usual, I scattered stuff all over the work surface, violating, continually violate New Year's resolution number 2, which is to keep the workbench clean. I've been doing pretty well with New Year's resolution 1, which is to not say the forbidden word over and over again. Yes. Yeah. Cleaning up once a month is important because otherwise, every flat surface, we joke about it, but it's not really a joke anymore. It's like every flat surface in the house just accumulates stuff. And we joke, not joking, but sort of joking, but not really joking, that we can't allow flat surfaces in the house anymore because they just get cluttered, totally, completely cluttered. So, every once in a while there's a purge. Yeah, I can do that later. At some point, you just have to say no. It just needs to be cleaned up. And there isn't any way around it. There's no excuses. It just has to be done. Okay. Well, there's a spot here where there was a piece of plastic that I needed to take off. And I never touched it up. It's a mostly invisible spot. There's some right along here, if I can get these. There's some shininess there where the chrome is showing through the old chrome, but that's going to be pretty much invisible too. But there's little bits here, tiny bits, where the cement is showing, and what that does is it makes a shiny spot where there shouldn't be a shiny spot. This is done. It is officially done. I'm going to, after I clean the brush, which I hope will actually happen here, is I'm going to get the done box out. There is one. I created the done box for the Savoia to put the parts that were finished, done, to put those in there. And that's what I'm going to do, is that's done. So it's going to be done. Dun, 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 dun. So in 1966, this would have taken probably the better part of 15 minutes to put together. But now in 2025, it took the better part of 2 weeks. Just goes to show you, passage of time will do. I'm getting the done box. Carefully labeled it done. And what's in here are the tires. These are actually not quite done. I was able to get the Firestone highlighted in white. I'll redo those a little bit, but there's a raised ring around each of the tires that is supposed to be yellow. And I tried the yellow pencil. I was able to do this with white charcoal, basically. A really soft pencil, very, very soft. And I thought I had a yellow one with the same consistency, but I didn't. So I'm going to find some yellow chalk. I know I've got some around the house somewhere, some old playground chalk or something. And if you can see this, there's this raised ring here. That's supposed to be yellow. So I'm going to try to make that yellow. I definitely do not want to try to paint it though. Because if I got paint on places on this tire, I would not be able to correct it. The radiator is going in the done box, and the engine is going in the done box. And the done box is going to be closed. Then I'm going to put it away. Meaning not in the place it needs to go, but away from the workbench there. And come back here, and what will I do next? I'm going to paint the back of the instrument panel. The toothpick's going to work on this. Let me try. See if I can get a. They're all different widths. Some of them are fat and some are skinny. Because, toothpick manufacturing quality control is not the greatest thing in the world. There, that'll work. Just break it off there. The edges, all of the edges and the back are flat black. Yeah, I got a pretty decent flat black. I have two blacks, glossy and flat. And because I can never remember which one was which, I wrote flat using green ink that has now smeared all over the place, but I know that that's the flat one. I'm getting some painting done, little bits now and then. When I built this kit originally, I did no painting on it. The chrome parts were the chrome parts. I know there was cement showing everywhere. The parts don't fit. They just don't. And I wouldn't have cared. If there was an issue, I would have just maybe scraped them off a little bit with a single-edged razor blade. But I didn't do things like I didn't fill in the gaps here and sand it all down so that the bulkhead was like invisibly attached to the body. But now I've gotten, I'm wanting to build models that look close to the master modelers' models that they put on the box tops. And I came really close to that with the Savoia. That one I think came out really well. This is just more challenging because the parts fit much more poorly. The Savoia parts, I've learned, compared to some of the other models, three other models that I built, those parts actually fit pretty well. But this is not a well-constructed model. I mean, not constructed. It's not a well produced model. Maybe it was because it was a reissue. It's coming. What's going on with this paint? I haven't used that much. Oh, geez. That was bad. I just wasted a huge amount of paint. The bottle was clogged and it wasn't coming out, and then it squeezed out, and now I've got 1,000 times more paint than I need. I'm not exaggerating. It is probably like 1,000 times more than I need. Just a little bit of impatience. It's never really a surprise. It's not surprising what a little bit of impatience will do. But it's just why wasn't I more careful? So for those of you who don't know, I will repeat frequently that this is not a how-to show. I'm not like a master modeler or a master painter trying to give people tips and techniques about how to build models. I'm an old guy who has picked up some skills along the way, read some modeling books, got some decent brushes, got a head magnifier so I could see what I'm doing up close. So, but sometimes I can give you handy tips let me just say this. If you've built like two models in your life, right? If you built like two models in your life and you decided that they would look better if they were painted, and you've never really done that kind of thing before, and you don't have a budget, so you can't buy all sorts of fancy modeling tools and stuff. If you watch this stream, you can pick up a few tips about how to do things on the cheap, or how to do them when you don't have much skill. The lack of skill this stream should show you. Legos, okay. Yeah, there are some models called snap tight, which require no glue. The parts just snap together. I would not recommend them. They end up not looking all that great. But they are easy to build, and you end up with a model when you're done. So I can't say don't do it, but I'm saying I don't recommend it. Okay, so this is going to be flat black. It levels pretty well. The front of this, the red that I use for the steering wheel, the front of this is painted that same red. And then the bezels, the rings around all the instruments, those are painted, those are silver, aluminum. The inside's black, probably the same black color. And then there's little dials and things on the inside that I'll try to highlight. Those are white. So I'm going to try to make the instrument panel look good. I'm going to do my best to make it look pretty decent. But this is as far as I can go right now with this. So I'm going to put another clip on here and stick it on the stick it in the thing with the holes there with the other parts that have been painted. Which is over here, not where I was looking. And then make an effort to clean the brush again. Clean paper towel. Almost a whole hour to do yet. Just trying to think what I should do next, because the parts that I was planning to paint aluminum, I needed to fix again. There were mold marks, and mostly mold marks that I missed when I had sanded them down previously, and so they need to be re-primed. And I'm going to do that over the weekend. What I could try to do, there's a couple of things I can do. One is, this is supposed to set up really quickly. Okay, so supposedly, theoretically at least, this is ready to be sanded. I'm going to just try that. I'm going to try sanding it, and if it works, I'm going to just spritz some primer on it real fast, and then I am going to paint the interior aluminum, because that's the main thing I was planning to do today. What I wasn't planning to do was waste half a bottle of black paint. Good grief. How did that happen? You were watching, right? When I closed and opened the bottle of paint, these metallics, I put a cloth over it. do not understand how the paint manages to jump like that. I mean, that's just a huge blot. It must be on the outside of the bottle somehow. Okay. Um, this may be a mistake. I don't know. We'll find out. But what I'm going to do is get my 800 grit. I'm going to take the unlabeled stuff. Okay, the grit that I don't know what it is. I do know that. That's really coarse. All these little bits of sandpaper here. This is my polishing. You're not seeing what I'm doing. This is my polishing stuff. This is valuable because I haven't found a place to replace it yet. This is like 150 grit. This is for, really aggressive sanding. This is a nice piece of unused paper that I don't know what grit it is. It feels like 400. I started writing on the backs of these what it was, because I was just finding. I'm going to use this. This is 400. I wrote on that. This feels like 400. This feels like 800. So I'm going to use these two and believe that they are 800. But from now on, I have been much more carefully writing. Yeah, they are. Just, you've seen this on almost every stream. Almost every stream when I use paint, that it jumps out on my hand. I do not understand how that can happen. If I didn't, if the reason there that this showed was that I hadn't sanded it down enough. I don't know. Well, this is a little boring, I know, but I very much want that gap to not show. And this is how I do it, right? By filling it in and sanding down the filler. I believe it's going to be important to put a little bit of primer back on this. I don't know how the green paint is going to behave, but I do know that with the Savoya, when I put red paint on, if it wasn't primed underneath, it just showed a different color. All right, well, there's filler in where the gap was, so that's a good sign. I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I do anyway, is that I will sometimes spray paint down here in the workshop. It's not the best ventilated area, which is why I probably shouldn't do it. But if I'm just doing a little like that, priming that spot, okay, I think that's safe. I'm not recommending that as a thing to do. I'm just saying that I get impatient, and that's what I do when I'm impatient. I just do that. And I've done that several times now, and I'm okay. Hasn't resulted in any kind of permanent injury or anything. But it's one of those things where it's really, you really shouldn't. You really shouldn't. That's why this isn't a how-to show. This is this, getting along, doing stuff show. Thought I had avoided the rivet, but apparently I didn't. Yeah. So you have the same thing. You understand what I'm dealing with then. When I look at my hand and I say, how did I manage to get paint there? That part of my hand didn't touch anything. It didn't even come close to the paint. It should not have happened. And there it was, big blob of paint. Just amazing. Yeah, I should do that every now and then. It's just like, oh, look at my hands. Why? I don't know, because they might have paint on them. Why? I don't know. The paint just, if there's paint around somewhere, it jumps onto my hands. It just does that. Why? I don't know. It's evil. Okay? It's evil paint, and it jumps onto my hands. Well, there's a thin line of filler in the gap that was there before. So I'm going to hope that once I prime this, it will look okay. Okay. I'm going to just take this off. And I'm going to spritz primer on that. And after the primer is on that, since I'm not going to be painting anywhere near it really, I am going to, since I've got 45 minutes left almost, I'm going to paint the inside of this aluminum. I'm going to do that. And then what I was hoping is that I would have painted the inside of this aluminum at the very beginning of the stream. That didn't happen. And then I was planning to have tape this so I could paint it green over the weekend, and that's not going to happen. But as usual, it is as usual. I have these plans for what I think are going to happen during a stream, and I talk about those. But I do give a fair warning that it's just what I aspire to do, what I think I'd like to try to get around to doing. The thing is, I did as a kid. Okay, I'm just going to do this now. I'm going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm not taking a break. Here, let me here, I'll let you look at brushes. Here, while I do this. You can watch me take the can. Take the can. I use spray paint because I don't know how to use an airbrush, and so yeah, I waste a lot of paint this way, and it costs me really 3 times as much as it should, but I do what I can. Still not perfect. Dang. What else I can do? Well, it's as good as it's going to get. You can still see it, but it's not. I think it's just. I think that it's just the filler is showing through because there's a little green line of filler in there, and I think that's all it is that the filler is showing through the primer paint. Okay, I'm going to use this big brush. This whole thing, all of this needs to be painted aluminum. It's a lot of aluminum that needs to be painted aluminum, including the inside of the bulkhead here. Up here. And no, it just needs to be done. Yeah, I did clean it. I did clean it after I sanded it. I did. It's important to do that. Is that after it's sanded, there's usually sanding dust. That isn't what the issue is. It's just I think it's actually smooth now. It's just that the primer isn't opaque. Okay. Probably with 3 coats it would be, but I'm not. What I'm looking at is when I tape this to paint the outside green, I'm wondering, I want to paint right up to the edge with the aluminum paint. And then I'm going to tape the edge of it like that, as opposed to trying to paint it back. So what I'm going to try to do is when I paint this aluminum paint on, is I'm going to try to not get it over the edge. Paint up to it, but not over. We'll see. There's a little problem, using a big brush like this with sometimes brush control, paint control. Just get started on it and see how it goes, I guess. That's the best thing to do here. And then